So in this particular study, which I know you're
Yeah.
familiar with,
Yep.
the intestinal microbiota, which is, again, just a good healthy bacteria and maintenance of health and development of disease. I mean, it's a big statement for childhood development. What does it mean for parents out there?
Yeah, well, I really like this paper. It's a little bit of a newer paper, but I'm happy it's a newer publication because I think this is not new news. It has been talked about in scientific literature kind of historically, but it's become so popular lately, and I think because of all the advancements in digestive microbiome health. But what this paper really focuses on is kind of like explaining development of the microbiome in children and how it's influenced. So mode of birth definitely influences microbiome composition. So there are differences in baby when they're delivered vaginally versus in C-section. This paper really talks about when baby is delivered vaginally, they're acquiring, those bugs of mom's vaginal tract, which is very beneficial.
The good bugs. Yeah.
The good bugs, right. So you see a higher amount or abundance of the Lactobacilli and Bifidobacterium. When baby is delivered C-section, unfortunately, they kind of miss out on that opportunity to acquire those bugs, right? So they tend to acquire the bugs that are more prevalent on mom's, skin or whatever's kind of in maybe in labor and delivery room that day, right? So not to say that's a bad thing, but those good bugs are really, really important, right? And then, breastfeeding or formula feeding, that also, diet really impacts gut microbiome composition. So with breastfed babies, they tend to have a little bit more of an advantage with microbiome composition. They tend to get a little bit more fiber in their diet. And when breastfeeding ceases, let's say at 1 year, because of the positive impacts of breastfeeding to the gut, the now 1-year-old baby's gut is able to do things like ferment fiber when they're getting solid food, right? So they have almost like this one leg up. They have an advantage to be able to ferment and produce short-chain fatty acids. Formula-fed infants, even though I think we still need much more research in this area, seem to be less able to do so, because they didn't have that.
I'm going to throw out a big term. I want you guys to both comment on it. People have heard it. Maybe it's just in the beginning phases of being sort of talked about and understood in health food stores and, supplement world and so forth. But it's oligosaccharides. This is ultimately what is in breast milk. Because moms are not delivering the bacteria, nor are they delivering fiber, maybe some soluble fiber, but through the breast milk. It's really oligosaccharides that we're talking about. What are they and why are they important? Because the stats are staggering. That's what I'll ask you, Dr. Murray, next. So the stats around the non-vaginal deliveries, so C-sections, and mothers not breastfeeding. That's important for folks to understand. Not make them feel guilty either, because there's alternatives. But what are oligosaccharides, and why do we care to have breastfed in the first place?
In layman's terms, I kind of think of them as just like beneficial carbohydrates or compounds. That's naturally passed from the breast milk to baby, and that has beneficial impacts to the gut. If infants who are formula fed aren't getting that naturally from mom. So when you look at different formula labels, you'll see a lot of formula companies are adding things like probiotics or prebiotics now to better mimic, breast milk. So that's basically, how I think of it.
Major health conferring benefit. Yeah, and what are the stats out there?
So I think, the main research I've seen with, difference between vaginal birth versus C-section is just a huge increase in the child's susceptibility to allergies for the C-section baby. But when we talk about oligosaccharides, also, with the breastfeeding nursing, the other very, very important thing we should bring into the conversation is the colostrum, which is given in those first 3-4 days. Yeah. Which has so many different components to it. But in my understanding is what actually sort of initiates the child's immune system to start acting independently. It's like the software that goes in and initiates the immune system. The umbilical cord is cut, and now you're on your own. Your immune system needs to start working for itself, not dependent on your mother. So the colostrum is a part of that as well, and I think also plays a part in seeding that initial microbiome.
Yeah.
Okay, so now mom's delivered through C-section, and for whatever reason, either feels she can't breastfeed or has been told she can't breastfeed. Yep. What do we do?
Then we start looking at what formulas are available. In my opinion and my research, the very best, the most easily absorbed for a baby is sheep milk's formula, as opposed to cow milk, goat's milk, sheep milk. We have sheep milk formulas now coming out of Europe and New Zealand. New Zealand is actually leading the way in advanced sheep milk formula. Fantastic, pasture-fed, everything like that. And if we just look at, the size that each of those animals grow to, we don't grow into 250-pound cows. We shouldn't. We don't grow into a large goat. But a baby lamb is very similar size to a human baby.
That's an interesting perspective. I haven't heard that before. But that's, yeah.
So, but then you actually look at the composition of the milk, and the sheep's milk is just naturally A2, so you don't get the allergy to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so look at the sheep milk formula or any other formula that you like, and then you can even add colostrum to it. Mm-hmm. In those initial weeks.
Early on.
Yeah.
In your opinion, Dr. Korzak, I mean, dietary interventions, food schedules, especially for the mom who hasn't delivered vaginally and also is maybe not able to breastfeed.
Yeah, so, right, I think, with formula, there's so many out there. So it's like, how do you choose one that's right for that mom-infant pair? There are so many. So I think there's a lot to consider there. Is there an allergy? A lot of infants do have cow's milk protein allergies. You see a lot of formulas with hydrolyzed proteins, right? They're kind of pre-digested, right? So they're made for better absorption. So sometimes, I see moms in the area I'm in right now, and they go through 20 formulas before they find one that's right for them, unfortunately, right? So it's, I totally agree with what you're saying, and I think, advancements in this field is fascinating and much needed.